I welcome you here today. It is so wonderful to see all of you being here today to be part of the participation in our great democratic system of democracy in our country. I love that you're here. Thank you. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization that was founded 102 years ago in 1920 when women won the right to vote after decades of working to that goal. As we know, not all people, not all women got the vote at the same time. Native Americans not until 1924 or even later in some states, and Asian Americans not until the 40s and 50s. So we treasure and we value our right to vote. The League of Women Voters had a vision, and it still holds today, and that is to empower voters, that we all have the desire, the right, the knowledge, and the confidence to participate in our system. And this forum today is a great example of that. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being voters. It's so important in our world. And these local county offices are the most important because they impact us every day of our lives. What happens here in Mason County is going to depend on the people that you elect in November. So thank you again for being here. I also want to thank the Voter Services Committee of our league, who have worked very hard to make all the arrangements and be prepared to present this forum to you today. I'd like to thank our media, Dietrich Allen, for providing all of the sound equipment and videotaping
this broadcast on Mason Web
this
TV
forum
powered by
today,
HCC
and you will be able to
by
see it on Mason Web TV if you'd like to review or tell your friends and neighbors.
Video,
take
data,
a look
and customer service, keeping our community connected since 1934. The Conklin team at Windermere Real Estate. When it comes to real estate, nothing compares to local knowledge. And Mason Health, United Community, empowering people, exceptional health.
And it will involve all 14 offices who will be running in November, all the way from our 35th Legislative District to, and also including the candidates you see here today at our county level. And so that will be at 6:30. Another announcement that I have is the League of Women Voters meeting in October on the third Tuesday, which is October 18th. We will have a speaker, Steve Kolk, who is an actuary, and he's going to talk about climate risks specific to the Pacific Northwest, and think about how an actuary does their data. It will be really interesting. It will be a webinar, and you can find out more about it on our website closer to that date. And there's information about our website back on the membership table. We have membership information, of course, so please avail yourself. If this sounds like something you would like to be part of, we'd love to have anybody be part of our group, and you don't have to be a woman. Isn't that exciting? So today, we have a short time to learn about these candidates and their views on issues that are important. And so we need to work together to make the best benefit of our time. We're going to ask you to be very courteous, respectful, civil with each other and with our candidates and candidates between each other. And we're going to ask you, please, I heard somebody's phone right now. Pull it out and mute it. Right now would be a good time while your neighbor's doing the same thing. We also ask that you refrain from any verbal or other responses to candidates' answers. We want to not take time for that. We want, it's going to move fast. They're only going to have 1 minute each to answer questions. And so please, help us to meet those time deadlines. We will be done at 1:30 today. Let's see. Oh, you all received or had the chance to receive a piece of paper where you can write your own questions down. And so if you have a question, be sure to put which office it's for, not a specific person, but which office, and hold it up, and a league member will come and collect that from you. And we have question vetters over here who have helped us to prepare questions. Our league members from all across the county, we have 72, were asked to submit questions related to issues important to them and related directly to the duties of each office. And so the questions we will start with today will be 4 of those in round 1. And then after round 1, we will come back to and address other questions that are asked. I'd like to introduce our timekeepers today, Cheryl Williams and A.B. Gammons, and they are going to be holding up a yellow card when the candidate has 15 more seconds, and a red card when that says stop. So that's hard, I know, when you're a candidate, and the time is going to be short for each of these questions. I think I have everything covered for the welcoming time. Now I'm going to introduce Jeff Slakey, and Jeff is going to handle the candidate introductions and the questions. So, and I said don't applaud, but please applaud Jeff. And Dietrich as well. Jeff stepped in at the last minute when our other person wasn't able to be here. So thank you so much, Jeff.
Thank you, Cindy. A big hand to Cindy and the league, of course, too. Thank you. Yes, I'm filling in big shoes for Joel Meyer here today, so I'm going to try to do my best, and we're going to get through and get a great opportunity to meet our candidates. The clerk candidates here, our current clerk in Mason County is Sharon Fogo, and her opponent here is Charles Rhodes. In the auditor's office, we have current auditor Patty McGuire, and Steve Dunkel is challenging him. Patty McLean is our current assessor, and George Blush is challenging her. We've got, again, couple of questions, so please be cognizant of the time, thanks to our timekeepers, and I think now is when we'll begin. We're going to begin closest to me here with the clerk candidates. So Charles, as we get ready to start with you, please explain to us what the county clerk does in a typical week. Charles, the floor is yours.
Okay. Excuse me. First of all, thank you for having me. The county clerk is the administrative and financial officer of the Superior Court. Mason County is one of 32 counties that derive their governmental structure from the state constitution, whereas the officials are elected by the vote of the people. We have 7 that are chartered that doesn't require an election, one being King, Clallam, Whatcom, Snohomish, Pierce, San Juan, and Clerk. The duties of the clerk is to receive and record documents, and as the custodian of records is required to preserve all court documents and records. They collect all monies owed by the court, owed to the court, including fees, fines, and restitutions ordered by the court. Once collected, the county clerk must properly account for and appropriately disperse such funds in accordance with Washington law. The third main duty that they have.
Thank you, Charles. Sharon, your time now. Please explain to us what the county clerk does in a typical week.
In a typical week, the clerk's office invites people in to take their paperwork. We process their paperwork, which means data entry, scanning of the images of those documents, and providing them to the court for review. We are in court sessions constantly. We have up to 4 courts a day because we have 4 different judicial officers that we work closely with. We process payments. We receive those via email. We receive those over the counter and also over the telephone. In 2017, the only way you could make a payment with your debit or credit card was over the email, over the internet, and now we accept those at our office. We also process passports. We take care of the jury for Shelton Municipal, District, and Superior Courts. So we're dealing with a lot.
Thank you. Sharon, what systems are in place and what would you improve to allow public access to records?
Oh, that's a great question. I've been on the waiting list for 2 years through the Administrative Office of the Courts for e-filing, which is a way to scan a document to our office and allow us to process it without having paper. It would be really great to get that set up and ready to go, but AOC has informed us if we're on the Odyssey program and we want to stay with the Odyssey program and not cost our constituents more money for the county, we will be on the waiting list until 2024 at this point. So I am looking at third-party vendors to see if the county can come up with funds for processing those as an e-filing system. But that's pretty much the way to allow the public to access us without actually having to come in or mail their documents.
Charles, it's the same question for you. What systems are in place and what would you improve to allow public access to records?
Well, that is a good question. First of all, one of the things that we're not doing is we're not getting things out in a timely fashion, both for the attorneys and or the public. The information that is being dispersed is something that should be within not to exceed 2 days. It's actually coming. It's taken 3 and 4 weeks. So some of these issues that dealing with the public, things like question of records or question of warrants, where the law enforcement community is not informed, and therefore their people are being arrested on a quashed warrant because the clerk's office is not doing their job. So as far as, first of all, we need to get our accounts receivable in order. We need to get our scanning in order.
Thank you. Thank you, Charles. Charles, now a question to you. How does the clerk's office assist immigrants?
Assist immigrants as far as the ability to be bilingual and or give them the information they need in their native tongue. And that is as at this point, because I have not been in the clerk's office, that is where I'm gonna stay, because dealing with the immigrants, dealing with the people that go in there that are either Hmong or Spanish speaking, etc., we have the ability to be able to translate.
Sharon, maybe you can answer that a little bit more too. How does the clerk's office assist immigrants?
So we have language line, which is available to us. We have an interpreter both in district court and in Superior Court administration that are available on occasion if we need assistance in breaking through a language barrier with Spanish speakers. We have actually assisted individuals that have gone through our school system and learning English as their children know some English, and so we work with the kids sometimes. We also use Translator for Google Translate when we're working with passport applications, because a lot of families want to get their children their passports. So we help them through the process with using the tools that we have available. and process their paperwork just as we would. There are dual language forms out there that include not only English versions but Spanish versions as well.
Thank you. We have one final question here for the clerk candidates, and then we'll go through and have everybody introduce themselves. Charles, starting, let's see. Sharon, I'm going to start with you. Sorry about this. Again, big shoes to fill. Sharon, what is one question you would ask your opponent?
Oh, that's a really good question. How far back do our records go? That would be the question.
The question was, how far back do our records go?
Okay. The statute, when we're dealing with the statute of limitations, it requires 10 years. On the statute of limitations, you can, the clerk, whoever that is, he or she, can go before the judge and ask for an additional 10 years. So the records before that they're stale dated would be 20 years.
And then, Charles, what's one question you would ask your opponent?
Okay. After the passing of Mark Jarls, why did you not hire a accounts receivable clerk or a collections clerk to replace him?
Am I allowed to answer that now? Okay. So I did hire a collections deputy after Mark Jaros had passed away. It did take me some time to get the training for that person because Mr. Jaros passed without transferring any of his knowledge on to others in our office. So we sent people to Thurston County, Lewis County, and Kitsap County to see their different processes. And I did have a collections deputy starting in 2018. So we have been sending collection letters and processing that since then.
Thank you.
And if you want to know how far back you can get records, 1884.
Thank you very much. Again, these are the candidates for the Mason County Clerk position. Current County Clerk Sharon Fogo and Charles Rhodes. At this time, we are going to allow the candidates to introduce themselves for 30 seconds. We're going to go start at the far end, though, this time. And George Blush will start us. He is the candidate for Assessor. You have 30 seconds, and then we'll just move down the line. Thank you.
Hi, my name is George Blush, and I'm running for Mason County Assessor. The Assessor's Office is, pretty basic function of government that needs to be done. Things I'd like to do differently are, first and foremost, the number one thing that I want to get in there and fight for is a lot of the counties around us, the senior tax exemption is $45,000, and here it's only $40,000. So if I have to camp out at the legislature's front office, I'm a big guy, it's going to be hard to miss. That's what I'm going to do in order to save homes here in our community. Every day I sit down at Nita's and people come in and tell me how they're getting taxed out of their home. And if they just had that $5,000 buffer put in, that it would make all the difference in the world. So I'm here to fight for you as I have done before, and I plan to continue to do. Thank you.
Thank you, George.
Sorry about that. So my name is Patty McLean. I'm a 31-year employee of the Mason County Assessor's Office. When I started there in 1991, I had very little knowledge of what an assessor's office did. So the first few years I worked at the front counter, and then you learn everything the assessor's office is responsible for. I then moved on to data technician and basically updated all field appraiser books from the inspections, which results in your certified value that results in your levies. I also did all the state report ratios, assisted with seniors and levies exemptions. Thank you.
Hi everybody, my name is Patty McGuire and I'm the Mason County Auditor. I've been an elections professional for more than 20 years. I'm certified by the state of Washington as an election administrator, and I'm one of 3 people in the United States who's worked in elections at the federal, state, and now local level. I love my job. I have 14 professionals that work for me and work really hard for you every day, and I hope to be able to keep my job. Thank you.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Steve Dunkel, and I am running for Mason County Auditor because the people of Mason County deserve better transparency in how tax dollars are spent, better confidence in our elections, better efficiency in our licensing operations, and better timeliness in the filing of permanent county records. I want to build budgets that better reflect the priorities of the people. I will work to ensure that all legal votes are treated as sacred and illegal votes are kept out of the system. It's time for an auditor that will work full-time, return our elections to the people, and follow the law. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sharon Fogo. I'm your Mason County Clerk, and I hope to remain your Mason County Clerk. I've been in the office for 29 years. I started at the ground level, just like Patty McLean did, working my way up through the system until I was appointed in 2017 as the elected official, And we do the daily work of the Superior Court, and we're the keepers of records, so we need to, and we're a court of record, which means we need to keep our records for forever.
My name is Charles Rhodes. I'm running for Mason County Clerk. The Clerk is the administrative and financial officer for the Superior Court. I am well qualified for this position. I will bring the strong and effective leadership needed to ensure the Clerk's office performs all of its duties as prescribed by law. I have 43 years as an accountant and my financial expertise to this position, and therefore I'm uniquely qualified to manage the financial aspects of the clerk's duties. I'm a certified fraud examiner, licensed investigator in the state of Washington and Oregon, and I could go on and on and on. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates. Thank you. Again, you're going to get an opportunity to go back and watch this too on Mason Web TV to get a little bit more from these candidates. We're going to move to the auditor race here now. Steve, if auditor, what legislation would you propose or support that would bring change or improvement to the election process?
Well, at a high level, I would be supporting any legislation that shores up the vulnerabilities that have been put into the system by recent legislation passed over the years. So we have vulnerabilities in our system presented by the vote by mail system because of the breakdown in the chain of custody in ballots from the time that they're mailed out and received by voters and the time they make it back to the elections office. We have breakdowns in the chain of custody in our drop boxes. We don't have surveillance on drop boxes, and that's one of the things I would advocate for. I think it's also, when I am out and about in the public, people want to see the return of voter ID. People also want to see the return or implementation of citizenship verification, because believe it or not, our past Secretary of State, Kim Wyman, told me directly that illegal aliens can vote in our state, and I find that quite alarming. So while we have great things in our election system, and we can all rally around those, and we can embrace the convenience, we also need to step up and address, working together, the vulnerabilities.
Thank you. Patty, as auditor, what more legislation could you propose or support that would bring change or improvements to the election process?
So I want to start by just talking about some of the things that we have accomplished in the last 4 years legislatively. First and foremost, we got the state to pay its fair share of elections. Prior to 2020, the state didn't pay its share of election costs. It dumped those costs onto the voters, the taxpayers of Mason County, and I was part of changing that. I think looking forward, one of the things that I'm very concerned about is insider threats to elections. Colorado had a county clerk go rogue and pass on the software for her election system to the MyPillow guy and costing her state millions of dollars. Colorado passed a comprehensive package to make it a felony for insiders to mess with the election system, and I think we need to address that here in Washington State now too, I'm sorry to say.
Patty, this question is for you. Speak to the integrity of the voter rolls here in Mason County. How and when are they updated?
So the short answer to that is every single day. One of the things that I did this June after we redistricted the precincts in Mason County was mail a voter registration card to every registered voter in the state. There were a number of voters that hadn't voted, that hadn't had an election, anything on the ballot in more than a year, and so they hadn't been They hadn't been mailed in more than a year, so we mailed a voter registration card with return service to every single registered voter in the county. We use the mail, we depend upon the mail to give us information about where voters are. Washington State belongs to ERIC, the Electronic Registration Information Center, which is a 30-state consortium of states that share data. And so if somebody moves from Washington State to Arizona, we know about it through ERIC.
Steve, your question now, it's again the same, but speak to the integrity of the voter rolls in Mason County and what you know how and when they are updated.
Well, I think most of you probably know that I led a volunteer nonpartisan effort last year called the Mason County Voter Research Project, where we were out looking at voter anomalies from the 2021 and 2020 elections. And the short answer of that story is, and it was confirmed by King 5 News, that there are voter anomalies in our voter rolls. Our voter rolls are not current, they're not correct. Now, some of the things that we found tied directly to change of addresses that need to be made in some military ballots, right, that have been pointed out, but there's other things in there you can explain. And that is something that's important to me as auditor, that I will be proactive and focused on keeping our voter rolls clean and current and correct.
Thank you. Steve, where do you stand on rank choice voting?
I am opposed to ranked choice voting. It's a way to undermine the one person, one vote principle that our republic has been founded on. It is a way to diffuse and obfuscate and I think allow for manipulation of outcomes to really undermine the will of the people. So I am an advocate of one person, one vote. Ranked choice voting dilutes that, it confuses that, and I don't know how you would ever really make sense out of it from an audit standpoint.
Thank you. Patty, where do you stand on ranked choice voting?
This may be one of the few things we actually agree on. I will say I oppose ranked choice voting for a slightly different set of reasons. I think conceptually it's a really great idea. I think letting people express choices beyond one choice among many candidates, I think would be helpful. I'm very concerned about the ability of people with disabilities to participate in it, and some very sort of election administration concerns. We had 36 candidates for governor 2 years ago, ranking 36 choices on a ballot, being able to print a ballot with 36 names and ranking them 1 to 36 would be a daunting task for anybody. For somebody with visual disabilities or cognitive disabilities, it becomes impossible.
The final question here for our auditor candidates, and we'll start with you, Patty. What is one question you would like to ask your opponent?
So my question is, your campaign and your campaign signs touts integrity and transparency. In your letter to the editor on July 21st, you said that you became a resident of Mason County in 2016. However, in August of 2017, you voted in Snohomish County. So did you lie about 2016, or did you vote illegally in 2017?
I purchased my condo here in Mason County in 2016, and that's when I claimed residency.
And now, Steve, your opportunity and the final question for you. What is one question you would like to ask your opponent?
So the question I have for my opponent is, I just received a copy of a letter from the United States Elections Assistance Commission, where they state that the version of software used on our Clear Ballot voting system machine, ClearVote 2.1, has not met the certification requirements of the U.S. Elections Assistance Commission. I want to know, how is it we can run the 2021 election, the 2022 primary, and the upcoming November election on software that doesn't have EAC certification requirements met?
our current election system is not certified by the EAC. It has met the certification requirements of the EAC. State law requires election systems used in the state of Washington to be certified by the Secretary of State. That requires review by a federally certified voting system test lab, VSTL. Our system was tested by a Vistal and passed that test and was certified by the Secretary of State.
Thank you. Again, these were our auditor candidates. Current auditor is Patty McGuire and challenger Steve Dunkel.
Thank you.
We have one final set of candidates to get through. There are questions, as we mentioned here, that we have garnered. If there are more citizen questions, you may get yours read. There's a lot of similar themes that are out there, so if you don't have the exact wording, we do have those likely in other questions, so that's an opportunity here. Now we'll go down to the assessor candidates. Current assessor is Patty McLean, and her challenger is George Blush. George, we'll start with you on these questions. Who makes the tax rules and codes, and how much latitude would the assessor's office have in interpreting them?
My understanding is that the legislature is the one who sets up the tax codes, and the way that they're administered to us is based upon the rules that they set. I believe that our input and that the input of the people here in our community could make all the difference in the world if we all stepped up and walked up to the legislator's office together like we're all here today, and that we could make the changes that we need to make.
Thank you. Patty, again, who makes the tax rules and codes, and how much latitude does the assessor's office have in interpreting them?
So as George said, it is the state of Washington with your RCWs and your WACs. The assessor's office is an association of 39 county assessors. We actually have a Waco Day on the Hill where we present different bills and different, scenarios of changes we'd like to make to present, to the legislature on the Day on the Hill. So I'm wanting to work closer. I've kind of put my 2 cents in, and my first 4 years was kind of a little bit of a mess with COVID. I did participate, and work with all the assessors for changes, made to the laws. We are supposed to be at 100% of market value. There's a 10%, below 100% or above to be acceptable, within the market value. All of our reports are ran to the state of Washington to be compliant. So I do want to work closer with the reps, later, like what he said, to try to raise the senior exemption to above the $40,000. Each state is a medium income, so it was set at Mason County at $40,000. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Patty, what would you do to ensure fair assessments and improve the process? How, first though, are assessments done, and what's the criteria that's used?
So Mason County is divided into 6 different areas. We step foot on your property once every 6 years to do inventory on your property. So say if your property hasn't been inspected for 5 years and you're a new owner, you'll get a notice of value in the mail, and you have 30 days to come in and go over your assessment to have a complete understanding and for the accuracy of it. All sales that are recorded in the auditor's office, we take the next day, and we validate all the sales that come through to make sure they're an arm's length transaction. We don't, everything's got to be an open, on the open market for sale. We can't do like if I sold to my daughter for a good amount or something. So we do validate all the sales that come through the office. We do encourage everybody to come in to make sure everything is accurate on your parcel, even if it's got wetlands on it, to make sure it's attributed for it. Your quality of your house. We do encourage taxpayers to come in, and we have a really good system to make sure everybody is heard when they come in. Thank you.
Thank you. George, it's the same question. What would you do to ensure fair assessments and improve the process? And what you know, too, about the assessments and how they're done and the criteria that's used.
My philosophy will be a little bit different. I think my philosophy is going to be that if a citizen comes in and they have a valid complaint, they win. And we figure out how we help them to win, and we figure out how to make sure that everybody's treated fairly. When they come in there, I don't care what party you're from or any of the rest of that nonsense. If you come in and you haven't been assessed fairly, then we're going to figure out how you weren't, and we're going to figure out how we're going to get it right. You guys elect me, and you guys are the ones who should be deciding what happens in that office too. So my office is always going to be open to everyone, and that's it.
George, why do our taxes seem unpredictable each year?
For a variety of different reasons. Inflation, as we've all seen recently, has gone through the roof. Next year, I have a pretty good feeling that things are going to be a lot different. Things are starting to crumble right now as we all watch it on the news together. I see it all the time. They said we dropped 8% in the last month. This is just going to keep happening, unfortunately. And, you have to watch who you vote for and be very thoughtful about that and look at where you are when you vote and how the world is. And do you want it to continue that way, or is it time for a change?
Thank you, George. Patty, why do our taxes seem unpredictable each year?
I don't really think they're unpredictable. We are supposed to be at 100% of market value, and everything is validated through our office and reported to the state of Washington. I know in his statement in the voter's pamphlet, he states something about his value tripling since he's owned the property. But I mean, he says the value and then he kind of confuses it with the taxes. And if you look at the value, his value has increased. However, his taxes have actually gone down from 21 to 22. So because there's statutory limits set within the taxing districts, unless you've done a major change of new construction on your property, your percent of your taxes should only increase or decrease by 5%.
Thank you. Finally, this question here for the assessor candidates, and Patty, we'll start with you here. What is one question you would ask your opponent?
I would ask him if he thinks the taxpayer is always right and we're supposed to be at 100% of market value, how would you lower their values if you're supposed to be 100% of market value and have to report that to the state to be compliant?
That's a question that you should have an answer to, and I'm curious why you don't. Realistically, we should be able to do that, and I don't know why we haven't, and I don't know why that isn't something that's come up from you before. It's cool that you would ask me that, but I want you to understand that this is something that you shouldn't have to ask me, that you should have an answer for.
Well, I was kind of asking, I mean, if you're promising to lower people's taxes.
I didn't promise to lower anybody's taxes. I promised to make everybody fair.
Treat
everybody fairly.
I do treat everybody fairly.
George, your opportunity now. What is one question you would ask your opponent?
Do you have a dog?
I got 8 dogs.
Awesome. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, our candidates for the assessor's position as well, Patty McLean and George Blush. We did get some questions in from the audience, and I really appreciate that. Again, we got a whole host of questions, and there was a lot of similar themes here. We'll go back to the clerk's race. Sharon, we'll start with you. If re-elected, what changes in the office are needed in order for you to be effective?
Well, one of the things that I would really like to have is another person in our office to help with our backlog of records. We have about 4 years of cases that aren't either on microfilm or digitized. We've had from 1998 to 2002. 2002 is when we started imaging our documents. And so there's a bit of a backlog. The other thing that would be really helpful is to have a part-time or a temporary person to help with the Blake refunds. The Blake case is a Supreme Court case that negated simple possession of a controlled substance from 1971 until 2021. So all these individuals that were convicted of possession of a controlled substance and have paid into the legal financial obligations of their case are due refunds. And so once we get a court order for those refunds, we have to process the refund.
Thank you. And Charles, if elected, what changes in the office are needed in order for you to be effective?
First of all, to hire a clerk a collections clerk. We are approximately $41 million in shown on the records right now. $21 million is for restitution, which is money that is actually given to is awarded to crime victims. Non-restitution is about $18 million. That means that out of all that, there's 1,929 cases of restitution, which is approximately $11,400 per individual of that 1,929 cases that are backlogged. If this was being backlogged, if this was going to be corrected, this could have been corrected 4 years ago, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, and it has not. We're just progressively getting worse and worse and worse. Thank you.
Thank you, Charles. Moving now to the auditor's race. Patty, we'll start with you. If you're re-elected auditor here in Mason County, how can the residents of the county be confident that you're the legitimate winner of the election?
As auditor in 2020, I'm a Democrat. As auditor in 2020, there were 11 races contested between Republicans and Democrats. The Republican won 10 of 11 races. I certified those results because they were accurate and fair and reflected the will of the voters.
Steve, if you're elected auditor, how can the residents of Mason County be confident that you're the legitimate winner of the election?
I'm not so sure they can be 100% confident. When we have voter rolls that need to be corrected and made current, I'm not sure we can have confidence when we are running elections on machines that don't meet EAC certification requirements. I'm not so sure we can count on the outcome of elections when we know that our machines are accessible from outsiders through the internet. So while I want to embrace the outcome of the election and trust that everybody did the right thing the right way, I don't know that any of us can have 100% certainty in that.
Thank you, Steve. And now finally for the assessor race, and we'll start with you, Patty. If re-elected, please share with us how you propose to work with the numerous state laws that dictate your work.
Well, when I meet with the other assessors, we'll make sure we have a clear understanding of them to implement them and implement them when they go into effect. That is always our main goal, to do that.
Thank you. George, if elected, please share with us how you propose to work with the numerous state laws that dictate your work.
I'm going to definitely work with what comes down the pipe. If I don't agree with it, I'm going to make a whole lot of noise about it, and I'm going to let the whole world know that I don't agree with it, because somebody has to step up and say, look, we've had enough. We've been beaten up long enough. The time has come for that to be now.
Thank you. Let's go back to the assessors here. We have still more time, and we do want to make sure there's plenty of time for you to kind of corner these candidates and talk with them afterwards, but let's go back to the assessor races here. Let's first start here with the question, George, please explain your understanding of the Board of Equalization's relationship with the assessor's office and how you can improve it.
My understanding is that's where they go if they dispute what you say and you can't come to a reasonable conclusion. I think that's be a very extremely small used department there, because I think we should be able to try and get everything figured out in-house. Like I said, when you come into my department, I think the civilian wins all the time, not the county, because you guys voted me in. You know, you elected me, so I work for you. Thank you.
All right, Patty, same question there. Explain the understanding of the Board of Equalization's relationship with the assessor's office and how it can improve.
The Board of Equalization is a separate department from our department. We already have a really good relationship with that department, and basically, if you want to appeal your value, you have the 30 days from your notice of value to contact the Board of Equalization. It's an appeal process, so basically our office defends our value and how we arrived at it, and then they state their side and their sales and stuff to override if they feel we are incorrect. Last year we had 158 board appeals. This year we're just under 140. So it's less and less every single year, but we do work really close with them, you know, to understand the process of it. But it's a fair hearing on both parties.
Let's move on to another question here in the auditor's race. Steve, what is your opinion of the Washington Voter Research Project?
Well, I was a participant in the Washington Voter Research Project with the Mason County Voter Research Project piece of that overall project. I think it's great. Citizen involvement, nonpartisan volunteer involvement to take a hard look at how the elections are being conducted and look into questions about the legitimacy of votes that don't quite make sense. I think that's a great thing, and that's part of what I want to do as auditor. I want to be the people's auditor, and I want to teach everybody about how the elections work from end to end so that we all understand what really works well and we all understand where the vulnerabilities are so that we can work together on common sense solutions to go fix things together. So I'm all for it. I would do it again.
And Patty, your question too, the opinion of the Washington Voter Research Project.
So there was a group here in Mason County led by my opponent that went door to door. We got calls from voters who believed that the people at their doorstep were my employees. I don't know how they represented themselves, but people who were approached were confused and thought that they were acting officially. I got a spreadsheet of about 480 names from this organization of voter anomalies. 60% of the information we already had, so people who had moved, they were operating off of old data. I have new data. 60% we already knew. 20% was just plain wrong, military and overseas voters who are entitled by law not to live at their home where they're registered to vote. And another 20%, about 80 people, we don't know what exactly is going on.
Thank you. Now in the clerk's race here, Sharon, in your opinion, does the clerk's office currently have ample budget and staffing to accomplish the required responsibilities? And if not, do you have solutions that could fix this?
I believe that the employees that I have work very diligently to get the job done. We can always use another body because courts, sometimes actually we have 5 court sessions. So if somebody's on vacation, somebody's sick, and we've got 5 court sessions, it just makes it really tight in the office we don't have enough people. The other problem that we have though is space. So currently we have 2 people that are somewhat detached from our office because they are separated, and so because there's not enough space in our current situation to house everybody. Another individual to do some back scanning, do some Blake refunds, all of that would be wonderful. I received some tension from the Board of County Commissioners about adding more people, so I back off and I use the resources that we have.
Thank you. Again now, Charles, in your opinion, does the clerk's office currently have ample budget and staffing to accomplish the required responsibilities? And if not, what are your solutions that you propose to fix that?
Currently, the clerk's office does not have adequate staffing, and the reason they do not have adequate staffing is because their people are leaving in droves. They had 3 leave for other county offices last month. One up in administration, one in juvenile, one in the district court. The problem is bottom line is it falls within the clerk. If we don't have adequate staffing, then the clerk needs to be there, continuing to lead. And the problem with the lack of leadership within the clerk's office is astronomical. I have never, in 43 years in business, I have never seen a turnover like they have in the clerk's office at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. In just a moment, we will have an opportunity for each of the candidates to offer a 1-minute summary of their conversations here today. We have one final question that is for every candidate. We'll just go down the line. It's a yes or no. Do you recognize the legal election of President Joseph Biden in 2020? So just go down the line. It's a yes or no answer on this one.
What does that have to do?
The question again to every candidate, do you recognize the legal election of President Joe Biden in 2020? Yes or no?
I don't think there is a yes or no. I have concerns, but he did win. So I'm going to go with yes.
Yes.
Joe Biden is in the White House because he received more electoral votes. That's our process. That's why he's in the office and serving as president.
Yes.
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 Thank you. Since we started down at the far end with George on introductions, we'll come down at this way. Everybody now has 1 minute to, again, persuade our audience here in the Civic Center and on Mason Web TV for their votes in the upcoming election. We'll start with you, Charles. 1 minute.
Okay. Thank you very much. If I'm elected, I will initiate my plan to update and modernize to increase productivity and better serve the court system and the citizens of Mason County. I built my campaign on the principles of leadership, accountability, integrity, and trust. Leadership to build employee morale and promote effective teamwork. Accountability for the performance and completion of work that is required. Integrity to follow through with promises made and take responsibilities for outcomes. And trust earned through honesty, reliability, and hard work. I am Charles Rhodes. I hope to earn your vote on November 8th to elect me as your next county clerk. Thank you.
Thank you, Charles. Sharon?
Again, I'm Sharon Fogo. I'm hoping for your vote in November. Our office maintains the records for the Superior Court. We do that to the best of our ability. Sometimes mistakes are made, but we're all human. And human nature is that we make a mistake, we learn from it, and we move on. So I appreciate my staff. I know they work hard. I know I work hard, and I work hard for you. So thank you for your vote in November.
Thank you. And those, again, are the candidates for the Mason County Clerk. In the auditor's race, Steve, we'll start with you.
Hey, I want to start out by thanking the League of Women's Voters for having this event today. As I shared with some of you before the event, my grandmother was an ardent supporter and member of the League of Women's Voters, and she would be so proud of me being here today. And on her behalf, I want to thank you guys for all the great work that you do. Keep up the great work. I'm running to be your next auditor because I want to bring many aspects of the auditor's office back to the people, starting with our elections. Our elections don't belong to the auditor. They don't belong to the Secretary of State. They belong to you, the people of Mason County. And that's one thing I'm going to pursue if elected to that office. The other thing is you'll have an auditor that works full-time across the board with all the auditor's responsibilities, not just focused on elections, but we're going to cover the full waterfront of everything that the auditor is charged to do. So I'll be a full-time auditor. I will follow the law, and I'll be the best auditor you've ever had. I'm looking forward to your vote in November, counting on your vote in November. I will not let you down. Thank you very much.
I'm Patty McGuire, and I'm proud to be your county auditor, and I hope to have an opportunity to do this for another 4 years. I lead a group of professionals that works every day to serve Mason County taxpayers. We work hard, and we do a really good job. My office pays that the people who come to see us are paying our salaries. That's the way I instruct my employees to treat everybody that we deal with. I hope to have another 4 years in this job. Thank you.
And those are the candidates again for Mason County Auditor, Steve Dunkel and Patty McGuire. In the Mason County Assessor's race, Patty, we'll start with you.
Yes, thank you again for the invite. I am your current Mason County Assessor, and it has been my pleasure being your assessor. With 31 years experience in the office, I have a general knowledge of all the positions. This allows me not only to train new staff, but to work alongside them in case of an emergency. We do treat everybody fair and equitable for their values and make sure everybody is heard. I will work hard to continue, and you can ask anybody. I'm there a lot. I work very full-time. I would really appreciate your vote on November 8th. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And George?
Hi, my name is George Blush. I'm running for Mason County Assessor. What I want to say is, in a place like this, they talk about, voting rights and that sort of thing and how important they are. I want to say happy Hispanic Heritage Month to any Hispanic people here in the room. I am one of those people. My parents weren't able to get married in the church because my mother was Hispanic and my father was white. So I definitely understand the rights, and I also understand how hardworking people come to this country and they work their entire lives to build the American dream. I found it. I built it. I went and we worked hard. I have my home, I have my business and all those good things. But I'm watching as people around me are losing their American dream in retirement. And when I see that, that says to me that enough is enough and it's time to do something different. Thank you.
Thank you. Folks, a big hand for everybody here that's running. We want to thank, of course, the Shelton Civic Center and all the great folks for having us here, our timekeepers, Cheryl Williams and A.B. Gammons. Thanks for you for dealing with me. Joel was supposed to be here, and he would have done a great job. Cindy with the League of Women Voters. And looking at my time, we have we got about a half an hour or so for all of y'all to corner these folks and talk with them a little bit more and ask some more detailed questions. Here's Cindy one more time, but thanks for coming.
Thank you so very much, Jeff. We really appreciate you. And I wanted to thank again all of you for being here. Also want to draw attention to a couple of things coming up with our league. We are not partisan, but we are political. And by that, what I mean is that we study issues and take positions and then advocate for something or against it. And there are going to be 2 studies that our league will be participating in this year, and I wanted to make you all aware of it because anyone can join us in these studies. The first one this fall is going to be on shorelines, a very important issue in Mason County because I think we may have more shoreline than anywhere else in this state, and it's critical to many businesses and all of us that our shoreline regulations are current and make sense and, take into account what's happening with climate and so on. The second study will be next spring, and it is about journalism and the threat to democracy because of the loss of local journalism. And both of those are going to be very interesting. They'll be in depth, and you can find out more about them if you're interested on our website. As we put up more information about that, you will be very welcome, whether you're a member or not. So that's one more plug for the league. Thank you again so much for being here, and enjoy some time with the candidates one-on-one. Thanks again.
This broadcast on Mason Web TV, powered by HCC, was made possible by Hood Canal Communications, committed to providing quality services that exceed customer expectations in voice, video, data, and customer service, keeping our community connected since 1934. The Conklin team at Windermere Real Estate. When it comes to real estate, nothing compares to local knowledge. And Mason Health, united community, empowered people, exceptional health.
Thanks for watching Mason Web TV, powered by HCC.